Hey folks, I know I'm just an old guy talking about some mysteries, but please leave a like and subscribe before we start. Let's enjoy today's video. Now, today we're diving into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history, the case of D.B. Cooper, a name that has become synonymous with intrigue, the unknown, and a daring act of audacity that still captivates people to this day. To set the stage, let's go back to November 24th, 1971. It was a cold Thursday afternoon when a man, known only as Dan Cooper, later mistakenly referred to as D.B. Cooper, boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon. The plane, a Boeing 727, was scheduled for a short flight to Seattle, Washington, a routine domestic trip that would become anything but routine. Cooper, a middle-aged man dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, and black tie, calmly sat down in his seat in the back of the plane. He was just another passenger, blending in with the crowd. But little did the other passengers know, they were sitting beside one of the most elusive criminals in modern history. At around 3 p.m., the plane took off, bound for Seattle. The flight was uneventful at first, but as the plane reached cruising altitude of about 10,000 feet, Cooper did something that would change everything. He handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Initially, Florence thought the note was just another piece of junk mail or a love letter. However, when she read it, she quickly realized the note wasn't a trivial matter. It said, "I have a bomb. I want $200,000 in cash for parachutes and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to take me out of the country." Florence was shocked, but she didn't panic. She walked to the cockpit to inform the pilot and the co-pilot, and they immediately contacted air traffic control. The flight attendants, understandably shaken, continued to deal with the situation as calmly as possible. The passengers, meanwhile, were unaware of what was happening. The hijacker, Cooper, remained calm throughout. Cooper wasn't demanding to be taken to some exotic place or to a foreign country. He was asking for a sum of money, parachutes to escape, and a specific plan for his getaway. He wasn't looking to harm anyone. His request seemed oddly specific and pragmatic. As the plane continued its flight, the situation escalated when Cooper made another specific demand. He instructed the crew to have the money, parachutes, and fuel ready when they arrived in Seattle. In the meantime, he told them to keep the plane on course for Seattle and to not attempt any evasive maneuvers. He made it clear that any tricks would not be tolerated. When the plane touched down in Seattle, the authorities had already gathered outside, and a team of FBI agents were on hand. Cooper's demands were met. The money was brought aboard in a duffel bag, along with the parachutes. The authorities, trying to avoid a violent confrontation, carefully followed his instructions. The plane was refueled, and Cooper let the passengers disembark. Now, what happened next is where the mystery really begins. With his demands met, Cooper allowed the passengers to leave the plane, but he insisted that the crew remain on board. The plane took off again, this time heading south towards Mexico. But Cooper had a plan of his own. He instructed the pilots to fly low, slow, and at a specific altitude, making sure the conditions were ideal for his escape. Once airborne, Cooper made his move. He opened the rear stairway door and jumped into the night. He was never seen again. Now, you might be thinking, how could someone just disappear like that? Well, the truth is, Cooper's escape remains one of the most baffling aspects of this case. He had no known parachute experience, no clear plan for his escape route, and the conditions were far from perfect. Yet, he managed to jump into the night, with only a small bag of money, leaving behind no trace. When the plane landed in Reno, Nevada, the crew and authorities realized that Cooper had vanished. The money was never recovered, and no one has been able to definitively determine where he landed. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Over the years, multiple investigations were conducted, but Cooper's identity and fate remain a mystery to this day. So let's break this down. Who was D.B. Cooper? What do we know about him? Well, the truth is, not much. We know that he was an intelligent and calculated man, someone who had clearly planned out his heist. He didn't make any mistakes. He wasn't a violent man. He wasn't interested in hurting anyone. All he wanted was money and a clean getaway. But the strange thing is, there was no record of anyone named Dan Cooper boarding that plane. Some believe he was using an alias, but the name Dan Cooper seemed too generic, too perfect. Others speculate that he was someone with a military background, perhaps a former paratrooper or someone with knowledge of aviation. The way he handled himself during the hijacking indicated someone with discipline and a clear sense of purpose. Over the years, there have been many theories about who D.B. Cooper was. Some believe he was a criminal mastermind who had planned the heist for months. Others think he was a desperate man who needed money, maybe someone on the run from the law. Still, others speculate that he might have been a government agent, using the hijacking as a cover for some deeper mission. The FBI investigated the case for years, but they never came close to uncovering Cooper's true identity. They followed every lead, traced every piece of evidence, but the trail always went cold. Some of the evidence they found was baffling. In 1978, a boy named Brian Ingram found a small package of cash, $5,800, buried along the Columbia River. The money, part of the ransom Cooper had taken, was identified as the same bills that were given to him on the plane. But even this discovery didn't lead to any answers about Cooper's whereabouts or identity. There have been many theories about what happened to D.B. Cooper after he jumped from the plane. Some believe he died in the jump, unable to survive the harsh conditions of the wilderness below. Others think he may have made it to the ground and escaped undetected, using his knowledge of the terrain to vanish into the forest. The FBI has released numerous sketches of potential suspects over the years, but none of them have ever been definitively linked to Cooper. The theories have ranged from the plausible to the absurd. Some believe Cooper was a man named Robert Rackstraw, a former military pilot with a history of criminal activity. Others have pointed to a man named Richard McCoy, who had a similar hijacking scheme years later. But each of these theories has been debunked or lacks concrete evidence to support it. One of the most bizarre aspects of the case is that Cooper's daring escape never led to any further incidents. Despite what would have been a major national story, no one ever attempted a similar hijacking again, or at least no one was successful in the same way. Some have speculated that Cooper's unique set of skills, including his knowledge of parachuting, might have allowed him to escape, but it remains a mystery as to how he was able to disappear without a trace. It's also worth noting that, despite all the years of investigation, the FBI closed the case in 2016, officially declaring it an unsolved mystery. They concluded that they had no further leads and that it was unlikely they would ever uncover the identity of D.B. Cooper. But even after all these years, the fascination with the case hasn't diminished. People continue to speculate, to search for clues, and to wonder about the true identity of this elusive figure. And maybe that's what makes this case so enduring. The mystery, the uncertainty, and the allure of the unknown. D.B. Cooper remains one of those puzzles that will likely never be solved, and perhaps that's part of its appeal. Sometimes, the greatest mysteries are the ones that don't have answers, the ones that allow us to keep guessing, keep wondering, and keep exploring the unknown. Until next time, keep exploring the unknown and come back for another Mystery of Humanity.